The movie opens with a scene of fairies bathing in a cool stream. One of them, named OK Nam, discovers her fairy wings have been stolen, and she can't return to the fairy realm with the other fairies. She wakes up from the dream, which turns out to be a dream of a young professor named Yi Hyan. He suffers from insomnia and takes a lot of medication, which leads to bizarre dreams. His curious coworker advises him not to take too much medicine to avoid health problems. After work, Yi Hyan returns to his small, cozy home to rest and relax. Later, his younger brother Kim Ji-eum comes to visit. Yi Hyan gets irritated because he has to open the door for this clueless young man, who can't remember the 8-digit password. Kim Ji-eum urges Yi Hyan to pack his bags for a trip back to their hometown, as he promised their mother he would bring the professor along. This man is so messy that he even puts Yi Hyan's underwear in his backpack with his own, making Yi Hyan want to vomit blood. After a long time of meticulous packing, Yi Hyan and Kim Ji-eum set off on their journey back home. According to the GPS, the trip will take 3 hours. Yi Hyan finds the scenery along the way very interesting. Craving coffee, they stop at a roadside cafe. The cafe owner is an old woman with a red flower in her ear, which seems rather peculiar. Yi Hyan is indecisive about what coffee to order. Suddenly, 2 customers behind him start to complain loudly, urging them to hurry up as they can't wait there all day. The 2 young men feel awkward and nervously order a cup of black coffee. Just hearing this, Yi Hyan feels like this cafe is operating in a dangerous way. While waiting for their drinks, Yi Hyan feels that the place is quite secluded and scary. Perhaps being high up in the mountains makes him feel short of oxygen. Soon, the cafe owner brings them 2 cups of coffee that look quite suspicious. Kim Ji-eum claims it smells great, but Yi Hyan finds a fly in his cup. The owner nonchalantly reaches out, grabs the fly, and then hands the cup back to Yi Hyan to drink. Yi Hyan is completely shocked and refuses to accept such poor hygiene. He demands a new cup of coffee, which the owner readily agrees to. After drinking the coffee, they continue their journey and discuss the incident. If it weren't for the fly, the coffee was actually pretty good. They drive for a while and realize they have gone in circles and got lost. The GPS signal is lost. They spot a stone tower pointing upwards and decide to follow that path. As they go deeper, they feel like the road is strangely familiar, like a memory from a past life. Further down the path, they find a stream. An old woman with white hair is about to bathe there, but she suddenly transforms into a young girl. Unfortunately, they are caught watching her while she's bathing, and she notices them. She rushes towards them, filled with anger, and knocks them both unconscious. As evening falls, the 2 young men wake up on a bus, completely bewildered. They have no memory of what happened. That night, the 2 arrived at Kim Ji-eum's house. Kim Ji-eum was quite puzzled by the morning's incident, where an old woman suddenly turned into a young girl. He wondered if it was a zombie or a 9-tailed fox. Professor Yi Hyan, being a materialist, explained it as an illusion caused by oxygen deprivation, a scientific explanation that was difficult to dispute. Later, Kim Ji-eum's mother called them out for dinner. She proudly introduced her prized bottle of aged wine, which she had finally decided to open to entertain their distinguished guests. Yi Hyan, quick to help, offered to fetch the wine for Kim Ji-eum's mother, but unfortunately, he accidentally pulled her skirt, causing the entire dinner table to collapse in a spectacular, chaotic, and hilarious way. Afterward, the family went to the village festival. Kim Ji-eum's mother proudly introduced her son to the neighbors, boasting that he was studying for his doctorate and about to become a professor, making him the pride of the village. As the 2 young men strolled, they spotted the girl who bathed by the stream earlier. They approached her, wanting to clarify the situation and apologize for the earlier incident. They questioned her about her sudden transformation from an old woman to a young girl, demanding an explanation. Just as things got heated, a master named Gu appeared to defuse the situation and protect the girl from the 2 overly inquisitive young men. Yi Hyan, in his audacity, even threw a piece of pickled radish at the master, angering him and almost leading to a fight. Kim Ji-eum stepped in and shielded Yi Hyan from a punch. The group dispersed, each returning to their respective homes. Back at the house, Yi Hyan was still fuming over the incident and blamed Kim Ji-eum for not letting him fight the old man. Meanwhile, Master Gu and the 2 strange figures learned that the girl was actually a fairy named Sun OK Nam who had descended to Earth over 300 years ago. She was still searching for her husband, a woodcutter who had stolen her fairy wings, forcing her to wander the mortal world. The next morning, the two young men woke up. Yi Hyan was surprised to find that he didn't need any medicine to sleep soundly. Kim Ji-eum suggested going for coffee to sober up. They decided to visit the fairy cafe from the previous day and encountered the old lady owner with the flower in her hair. It was Mid-Autumn Festival, so the cafe was closed, but the owner invited them in for some coffee. Yi Hyan asked the owner if the bathroom was old-fashioned or modern to decide whether he should use it. When Yi Hyan entered the bathroom to inspect, he discovered it was a refreshing and natural bathroom, which he enjoyed greatly. The owner, hearing the sound of water from Yi Hyan's flushing, was shocked to realize it was the same sound she hadn't heard in 699 years. Realizing the person she had been looking for had arrived, the old lady warmly invited the two young men to have coffee. The cafe owner then introduced her coffee farm. Kim Ji-eum was shocked to see the old woman transform back into a young girl, thinking he was still drunk. A cat, with a clumsy move, knocked over Kim Ji-eum's coffee. Yi Hyan called out the cat by its name and shooed it away. The fairy was surprised that Yi Hyan knew the cat's name, as they hadn't spoken yet. Yi Hyan realized that the fairy was the girl from the stream the previous day. The fairy removed the flower from her ear, and instantly transformed into a young woman. She explained that Yi Hyan was the reincarnation of the Southern Star God, who had descended to Earth and was the husband of Fairy OK Nam. He was the one who had stolen her wings, causing her to be stranded in the mortal world. OK Nam rushed into the wardrobe and dug around in her husband's 699-year-old unwashed clothes. When she came out, the two young men had already left. The cat, Jeom-soon, transformed into a girl. She informed OK Nam that the egg, Jeon-dal, was about to hatch. The two young men were driving back to the city, panicking because they believed OK Nam was a nine-tailed fox and might chase them for knowing too much. Back at the cafe, OK Nam and the fairy godmother were verifying if Yi Hyan was indeed her reincarnated husband. After witnessing the events that transpired, OK Nam decided to go to Seun to find her husband. She informed her daughter, Jeom-soon, that her father had been reincarnated, and they would set off on a journey to find him. Next, OK Nam and her daughter went to seek out a red-haired girl, who was the local deity in charge of Bongdi, the university where Yi Hyan worked. Yi Hyan and his co-worker went to Bongdi's cafe for coffee. Meanwhile, OK Nam and her daughter were hiding above, observing Yi Hyan through a telescope. During this time, Yi Hyan was confiding in his co-worker about his recent trip back home, where so many strange things had happened that he couldn't believe his own eyes, especially the old woman in the coffee shop. Later, Fairy OK Nam and the local deity Bongdi had a private conversation about OK Nam's quest to find her husband. Bongdi warned her that her reincarnated husband might be completely different from what she imagined. OK Nam repaid Bongdi's help with a special coffee recipe she had created. Bongdi drank it and was completely blown away, experiencing the whole universe before her eyes. That night, OK Nam and her daughter slept rough in a park. OK Nam used Master Gu's magic to summon a flock of pigeons to keep them warm. At that moment, Kim Ji-eum was out buying something and saw this scene. He went over to wake OK Nam and offered her a place to stay at his home until she found a new place. Back at home, OK Nam used her magic to revive a wilting plant of Kim Ji-eum's, which greatly frightened him, leading him to believe she was a nine-tailed fox. OK Nam, not hesitating, introduced herself as a fairy in human form, but Kim Ji-eum remained skeptical. Meanwhile, Yi Hyan was having a pleasant dream about fairies in the sky. Just as he was enjoying his dream, Kim Ji-eum woke him up, much to Yi Hyan's annoyance. Kim Ji-eum had come to sleep over at Yi Hyan's place because a guest was staying there. The fairy mother and daughter were enjoying the warm and cozy room. Jeom-soon used her magic to pull a laptop out of a painting, which looked quite eerie. The next morning, Yi Hyan went to the bathroom and was startled to find that someone had used the toilet but didn't flush it. It turned out to be Jeom-soon, who hadn't figured out how to flush. When he went downstairs to have breakfast, Yi Hyan found his curry from the previous night was gone. The culprit, again, was the hungry Jeom-soon. OK Nam was embarrassed by this. Later, OK Nam and her daughter went to find the red-haired deity. But first, they needed a place to stay. The deity led them to a dilapidated warehouse. After some magical work, the deity transformed the old warehouse into a comfortable and modern home. Yi Hyan called Kim Ji-eum to complain about him not flushing the toilet and eating all his curry, leaving him hungry. Kim Ji-young opened the door, and it was OK Nam, who had come to collect her bag of clothes to move to her new home. Kim Ji-young kindly offered her a new set of clothes, which made her happy. However, in his infatuated eyes, Kim Ji-young saw OK Nam as a young woman wearing old lady clothes. That night, Yi Hyun had a nightmare. He dreamed he was bound and held captive somewhere, with demons appearing before him. He thought Bong Di was responsible. The next morning, Yi Hyun and Kim Ji-young were surprised to find OK Nam selling coffee at the cafe where Yi Hyun usually bought his coffee. She was now taking over the counter for the red-haired deity. Before leaving, OK Nam asked Yi Hyun to meet her at the hour of the dog, as she had something important to ask him. At this point, Yi Hyun finally realized OK Nam was a young woman. Yi Hyun returned to work and started to analyze whether he was hallucinating. After taking a sip of coffee, he began to fall asleep. Painful childhood memories resurfaced, causing Yi Hyun to wake up abruptly. Suspicious that the coffee might be laced with something, Yi Hyun went to his lab to analyze the coffee sample. He tested various things but couldn't find anything. Yi Hyun decided to switch tactics and seek help from his curious coworker to analyze his mental state. He suspected his subconscious mind was being knocked on, and the one knocking was OK Nam. Meanwhile, back in their hometown, OK Nam's 3 fairy friends were worried about her and her daughter in Seon. They decided to go to the city to find them. Kim Ji-young was on his way to the university when he accidentally ran into Jeom Soon, who was looking for Wi-Fi. They sat down to chat, and Kim Ji-young gave Jeom Soon his account information so she could access the Wi-Fi. In exchange, the cat gave Kim Ji-young some information. Fairy OK Nam loved peaches. Jeom soon returned home in her human form and recounted her encounter with Kim Ji-young. She was surprised that he could understand animal thoughts, as humans usually don't possess that ability. To adapt to city life, OK Nam and her daughter went to a salon to freshen up their appearance. OK Nam was led to a station for a hair wash, but she went ahead and started washing her own hair without the staff's assistance, leaving the stylist completely bewildered. After getting their hair done, the two paid and continued exploring the city. Meanwhile, Yi Hyun asked a student what time the hour of the dog was. She told him it was from 7 to 9 p.m. He wondered whether 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. would be more suitable for a meeting. He had a difficult time deciding between the two time slots. As the time approached, Yi Hyun went to the coffee shop and ran into Kim Ji-young, who was flirting with OK Nam. He was caught spying by Jeom Soon, which startled him. After sending Kim Ji-young away, Yi Hyun had a conversation with OK Nam. OK Nam told him about a long-ago story of a woodcutter who worked tirelessly collecting firewood. A young deer, startled and pursued by a hunter, was saved by the woodcutter, who diverted the hunter's attention. The deer thanked the woodcutter by giving him the address of a pond full of bathing fairies. OK Nam expected Yi Hyun to remember something, but he only asked why the deer could talk. She was baffled. OK Nam took a fabric doll from her pocket, hoping it would help Yi Hyun remember something from his past life. It was a memento from OK Nam and her husband. But Yi Hyun still couldn't recall anything. He was curious about how she could instantly transform into a young woman and questioned if she had used some kind of spell. OK Nam was thrilled, for only a fairy could notice that about her. She placed her hand on Yi Hyun's cheek and urged him to try to remember something. Yi Hyun woke up late and rushed to his lecture, frantically buttoning his shirt as he ran. He arrived just in time, but his students wanted to skip the lecture to go out and have fun. This angered Yi Hyun, and he launched into a tirade about how in this society, you have to work to eat, not just expect things to be handed to you. He then began his lecture. Yi Hyun went to his curious coworker's office, but the coworker was out buying coffee from Fairy OK Nam. She asked the coworker to bring Yi Hyun a cup of coffee he would like. Meanwhile, Yi Hyun was in his office reading a novel called The Secret Window of the Little Master on his tablet and got completely engrossed. Soon, the coworker returned and explained the novel's unique elements. It delved into the themes of social norms and human sexual desires. Yi Hyun was surprised to receive a coffee from OK Nam and wondered what her intentions were. He went to the cafe to find her. She was talking to the plants. Kim Ji-young arrived and greeted OK Nam warmly, his eyes revealing his infatuation. Yi Hyun thought his student was going through a hormonal phase and mistaking the old lady for a young woman. He learned that OK Nam's coffee was so good because she had learned from a fairy from Africa named Kaldi. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Kim Ji-eum asked OK Nam to watch a movie with him on the weekend, leaving her no chance to decline. Meanwhile, Professor the co-worker ran into his former patient Kyung-sul, who was making a documentary about people with mental health issues. He asked the professor to participate in the documentary. The co-worker immediately checked his records and realized that the young man was suffering from delusion based on lies. He agreed to the interview. The cafe deity returned to her cafe as she was tired of playing games and wanted to move around. She offered to work the counter for OK Nam to give her some time to rest and explore the university. OK Nam set out to find Yi Hyun. At that moment, Yi Hyun was lecturing about cells, but his mind kept wandering to OK Nam, making it impossible to focus. After class, Yi Hyun was surprised to find OK Nam waiting for him outside. He was confused by her sudden appearance during his lecture. OK Nam told him about his past life as a woodcutter who struggled to sell firewood in the market. She was relieved that he was now reincarnated and no longer had to suffer like that. OK Nam gave him a gift and left immediately. It was a garment embroidered with a pair of birds, but the embroidery looked rather lifeless. Back in their hometown, the three fairy friends had arrived at the station to go to Seun. However, the station manager told them the bird train had gone into oblivion centuries ago, so they had to take a different train to get there. Kim Ji-eum was taking an exam when he saw a human form Jeom-soon. He thought she was trying to harm the cat he had helped and confronted her. They argued, which angered Jeom-soon, so she gave Kim Ji-eum a swift punch to the snout. They ended up sitting down together, and Kim Ji-eum learned that she was actually the cat Jeom-soon transformed into a human. Kim Ji-eum promised to buy Jeom-soon a new laptop to help her continue writing her novel. Jeom-soon returned home and recounted her meeting with Kim Ji-eum to her mother. OK Nam suggested taking her daughter to watch a movie with Kim Ji-eum the next day, but Jeom-soon was afraid her cat features would show and affect her, especially since she couldn't control her emotions lately. Her mother advised her to eat less meat to control her cat body. That night, the three fairy friends finally reached Seun and were thrilled. Meanwhile, Yi Hyun and his brother were very drunk, so they had to support each other as they walked home. Kim Ji-eum let his brother sleep on a bench by the road while he went back to the bar to retrieve his phone. He was shocked to find a huge bill for the entire group. Yi Hyun was asleep on the bench when a large tiger appeared out of nowhere. It was Jeom-soon, and she just stood there watching him sleep. The tiger then picked up Yi Hyun and walked away. Jeom-soon took Yi Hyun to her home so that Fairy OK Nam could take care of him. He fell asleep soundly on OK Nam's lap. Kim Ji-eum returned to the bench where he left his brother but couldn't find Yi Hyun. He went back home and found his room empty. Worried, he searched everywhere for his brother, but Yi Hyun was being taken care of by Fairy OK Nam. In his daze, Yi Hyun muttered something about his past life, which moved OK Nam. She had found her husband's reincarnation. The next morning, Yi Hyun woke up and saw a tiger sleeping beside him. He thought his hangover was still messing with his mind and dismissed it. Exhausted, he went back to his own home and collapsed onto his bed. Kim Ji-eum had been worried about Yi Hyun's whereabouts all night, but now that his brother was back, he felt relieved. He went back to bed and fell asleep. When he woke up, he was in a hurry to get ready to meet the fairy. Kim Ji-eum arrived at the cafe and saw OK Nam talking to the plants. She was wearing the clothes he had gifted her. She had prepared coffee and boiled eggs for him. Meanwhile, the three fairies had reached Seun and enjoyed a delicious meal, but they discovered their wallet had been stolen while they were sleeping. They were all stumped and didn't know what to do. They had no choice but to work for the cafe owner to pay for their meal. It seemed that city life was a challenge for these fairies. Kim Ji-eum and Fairy OK Nam went to the cinema. They watched a 3D movie about the Monkey King, and the fairy was completely enthralled by the experience, reacting in a way that made her seem like an alien to the other moviegoers. Of course, she was a real-life alien. After the movie, they walked outside and received stares from the people around them. OK Nam's antiquated fashion drew attention. They stopped so Kim Ji-eum could buy her a flower. The florist initially thought OK Nam was Kim Ji-eum's mother, but then she saw her in her young form and was puzzled. While waiting for Kim Ji-eum, OK Nam met a homeless woman. The woman started babbling about unrelated political matters, which confused OK Nam. The woman then had a fit and ran off, leaving them clueless. Next, the two went to the park for a delightful picnic of coffee and boiled eggs. They shared their unique abilities. Kim Ji-young revealed he could understand animals, remembering how, as a child, he could understand birds singing, cows mooing, and even ants talking. Fairy OK Nam realized that Kim Ji-young also had special powers just like her, and that he had a pure heart. Yi Hyun and his co-worker, Professor the co-worker, went for a soup meal to sober up. They talked about the novel the co-worker was reading. They then saw Kim Ji-young walking hand in hand with OK Nam. Kim Ji-young even had a flower in his hair. At the same time, Kim Ji-young's mother came to visit his house. She mistook the clothes dryer for a refrigerator and put all the food inside. After their meal, the two friends said goodbye. Yi Hyun returned home and met Kim Ji-young's mother there. She was in Seoul for a wedding and stopped by to see her son. They embraced each other in a heartfelt reunion. That night, Kim Ji-young was telling his brother about his date with Fairy OK Nam. As they were talking, they were both shocked to discover that the food his mother had put in the clothes dryer earlier was completely cooked. This meant that Yi Hyun's favorite shirt was ruined. Since there was no food left, Kim Ji-young's mother cooked a quick pot of bean soup for dinner. She also informed Yi Hyun that she would be staying for a few days to help him clean up, which made him quite uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the three fairies had been working for the cafe owner for 2 days and were demanding payment for their dishwashing work. They argued for a while until the owner was so frustrated that she chased them away, even stealing their slippers. Yi Hyun went to buy coffee and saw that OK Nam's cafe was very busy. His students recognized him and dragged him in, asking for a coffee. They laughed when they heard OK Nam say she was a princess fairy. Yi Hyun was annoyed and pulled her aside for a private conversation. He told her to stop claiming to be a fairy because no one would believe her in this world. Since Yi Hyun was the reincarnation of her husband, OK Nam agreed to listen to him. She went back to the cafe and denied being a fairy to everyone. At the co-worker's office, student Kyung-sul came to visit and wanted to talk about the documentary. They were interrupted by Yi Hyun, who invited the co-worker to lunch. Kyung-sul reluctantly left. On the way out, he angrily threw his cigarette pack into a trash can and took a recording device out of his pocket. Yi Hyun confided in the co-worker about his current condition. He was sleeping soundly without any medication and had dreams about a place he didn't recognize. The co-worker suspected that he had fallen into a parallel universe and his subconscious mind was about to be unlocked, which could be dangerous. Meanwhile, at the university library, Kyung-sul saw Jeom-soon writing her novel and struck up a conversation. He asked her to join his documentary club, having noticed her for a while. It was unclear what his intentions were. Jeom-soon returned to the cafe and found her mother with a high fever. This was against natural laws, as fairies couldn't get sick. She quickly transformed back into a cat and ran to seek help. She found Kim Ji-young in the lab and dragged him along. They rushed back to the cafe to assess OK Nam's condition. Kim Ji-young carried OK Nam on his back and rushed to the warehouse. Jeom-soon used her magic to enter the secret room inside. Fairy OK Nam was running a high fever and had a stomachache. It turned out fairies are bestowed with many powers, but if they use them for personal gain and harm humanity, they are punished with excruciating stomach pains for breaking the natural order. OK Nam was experiencing this punishment because she had denied being a fairy in front of everyone that morning. It was also revealed that there are 7 supreme deities in charge of the Northern Star, and among them, Fairy OK Nam, the red-clothed Fairy Yi-jae, and the North Star General were all past lives of Kim Ji-young. They were close friends and had been together for 592 years. Back then, Yi-jae had committed a wrong by burning all the rice in a landlord's storehouse, which caused a famine among the people. As a result, she was punished. To cure this stomach pain, fairies eat peaches. OK Nam regained consciousness thanks to the peaches Kim Ji-young had bought earlier. Jeom-soon explained that Kim Ji-young had searched everywhere to find peaches, even though it wasn't peach season. He had also diligently cared for OK Nam and her daughter all night. OK Nam was deeply touched by his kindness now that she was awake. Yi Hyun's dream shifted to a bizarre scene of a white worm with a bow tie on its head. He also saw OK Nam in his dream. She told him that they were bound by destiny, and that she had loved him for a long time. He was then woken up by Kim Ji-young's mother singing. She had prepared breakfast, and all Yi Hyun had to do was eat. Yi Hyan went to the coffee shop to buy coffee, but instead of Fairy OK Nam, it was the deity Bong Di who was working there. He kept looking for OK Nam and even denied seeing Bong Di when she asked him. The three fairies were stuck on the train. Using a magical bean, they traveled back in time to the station where they had been robbed. They chased after the thief to a market. When the thief revealed his face, Fairy O recognized him as the reincarnation of her husband. They all chased after him, with Fairy O yelling at him. Meanwhile, the co-worker was very uneasy after learning about OK Nam's feelings for Yi Hyan. She couldn't contain her jealousy and told Yi Hyan not to believe her. It seemed like the co-worker had a crush on Yi Hyan. She kept shouting at Yi Hyan, which confused and unsettled him, as he wasn't used to her behavior. After chasing the thief for a while without success, the three fairies took a break by the road. Fairy O revealed that the thief was the reincarnation of her past lover, and she had to find him and reclaim her fairy wings. Meanwhile, in the lab, Fairy OK Nam visited Kim Ji-eum to thank him for taking care of her the previous night. She gifted him a pot of lotus flowers, a very meaningful gift. Kim Ji-eum was thrilled and showed the pot to Yi Hyan, saying he felt he was falling for Fairy OK Nam. Kim Ji-eum took the lotus flower pot home and carefully placed it by the window. He cherished and cared for it like a child. The next morning, according to Tiger Jeom-soon, her family also had a brother, a white dragon egg waiting to hatch. She was more excited about her brother's hatching than her father's reincarnation, as she could have a playmate. Kim Ji-eum went to visit Jeom-soon and gave her a set of beautiful cat fashion items. She asked him to help her contact a novel publisher. She was prone to transforming into a tiger when she was happy, so she needed his help to meet the publishers. It was her lifelong dream, so Kim Ji-eum agreed, which made Jeom-soon very happy. While Jeom-soon went to get some food, Kim Ji-eum went to see the dragon egg. He touched it, causing it to crack further. Frightened, he ran away. Jeom-soon came back with food and couldn't find Kim Ji-eum. She saw the dragon egg shaking and rushed to tell her mother. OK Nam said the white dragon was probably ready to be born. Yi Hyan returned the book to Kim Ji-eum and admired the lotus flower pot by his window. On his way back, Yi Hyan suddenly got a severe headache. A memory flashed through his mind. In his past life, he was a woodcutter who had the good fortune to see OK Nam bathing in a stream. He was a kind man and gave her his coat to wear. He also revealed that the deer he had saved had guided him to this place. Upon hearing the woodcutter's name, OK Nam was very moved, as it was the same name as the North Star General from many years ago. That woodcutter was the reincarnation of the North Star General. It seemed like destiny was working its magic. OK Nam had found her husband in the mortal realm, and their love story had come full circle. On that full moon night, OK Nam and the woodcutter were married, but one day he went into the forest to gather firewood and never returned, leaving OK Nam and her 3 children behind in that house. OK Nam's celestial clothes were also nowhere to be found, so she had to wander the human world for hundreds of years. Back in the present, everyone was buying coffee at OK Nam's shop. They were chatting and learning about OK Nam when Yi Hyan suddenly had a severe headache. Yi Hyan said that fragments of memories of OK Nam kept appearing and disappearing in his mind, causing him incredible pain and discomfort. Kim Ji-eum and Ham Suk couldn't understand what was wrong with Yi Hyan. Ham Suk thought he was lacking in love vitamins, so he suggested Yi Hyan go on a date to cure his condition. Yi Hyan immediately refused. He would rather get an injection than do something so frivolous. What a hopeless guy. Ham Suk had such good intentions, but couldn't see the signs. OK Nam, meanwhile, was blushing with happiness, thinking that her husband's memories were gradually returning. She didn't know what these memories were, so she asked Bong Di to help her with anything OK Nam needed. Kim Ji-eum returned to the coffee shop and asked OK Nam to go shopping with him this weekend. She agreed. On their way back, Kim Ji-eum admitted to Jeom-soon that he had accidentally cracked her brother's egg the day before. He even heard the egg call him Dad. This was quite surprising for Jeom-soon because the egg had been silent for over 100 years. The egg was a reincarnation of OK Nam's eldest child, waiting for the day to be born. Kim Ji-eum felt guilty for cracking the egg, but Jeom-soon comforted him, telling him not to worry too much. Yi Hyan finished teaching and went to OK Nam's store to buy coffee. He wanted to ask her out on a date, but was too shy to say anything. So, OK Nam took the initiative and invited Yi Hyan to have lunch with her. She offered him lotus leaf wrapped rice cakes, which brought back a memory from Yi Hyun's past life. OK Nam had promised him that one day she would make a dish wrapped in lotus leaves. Now she had done it, and Yi Hyun found the rice cakes quite delicious. The two of them had a very pleasant conversation together. Knowing that OK Nam usually ate lunch alone, Yi Hyun offered to join her if he wasn't busy. This could be considered his invitation to date OK Nam, and she was so happy and couldn't refuse. Meanwhile, Kim Ji-eum and Jeom Soon had successfully secured a publishing deal for their novel with Si-un Publishing House. However, Kim Ji-eum was quite embarrassed when he learned that the novel's content was homosexual erotica. Seeing that Jeom Soon had few friends, Kim Ji-eum advised her to go out and make more friends. Taking his advice, Jeom Soon visited a club according to the address she had been given. There she met Kyung Sul, a bartender who offered Jeom Soon a drink called oatmeal smoothie. After drinking a few glasses, Jeom Soon felt quite happy. She didn't turn into a tiger after drinking alcohol. As for Kim Ji-eum, after the release of his suggestive novel, his face appeared on many newspapers. Yi Hyun had to laugh when he read about it. Kim Ji-eum's mother was absolutely shocked, having a mental breakdown because of her crazy son. Yi Hyun encouraged Kim Ji-eum to finish his work. He even received a lot of attention from his students at school, who asked for his autograph because they admired him so much. This also made Kim Ji-eum have a mental breakdown, and he had to constantly hide. The only one who was happy was Jeom Soon. She hugged Kim Ji-eum tightly and thanked him endlessly for making her novel famous. That night, Jeom Soon realized that her mother had feelings for Kim Ji-eum, and she had the same feelings too. She thought that her father was reincarnated, but he didn't remember them. OK Nam, however, was determined to wait for her fiancé, even if it took countless lifetimes and she couldn't return to the celestial realm. Meanwhile, the three celestial beings boarded a ship to cross the ocean. They were told that they would be adrift at sea for at least 3 months. Everyone was shocked to hear this. But fate was ironic. They met the same scoundrel from before who also worked on the ship, and he was the reincarnated husband of the celestial maiden OK Nam. The scene changed to a clothing store. Kim Ji-eum was taking OK Nam to buy some new clothes under the watchful eyes of ordinary people. To them, OK Nam looked like a very fashionable old lady. However, in the eyes of Kim Ji-eum, the passionate admirer, he saw her as an 18-year-old girl trapped in old lady's clothes. After trying on a few modern outfits, OK Nam found one that Kim Ji-eum approved of. After a while, the store owner was stunned to see OK Nam transform from an old lady into a young girl. OK Nam wanted to buy something for Kim Ji-eum, so she asked the store owner to help her find something. While they were waiting, a memory of a past life suddenly flooded Kim Ji-eum's mind. It was when he was OK Nam's true husband, and they were living happily. However, he was afraid that his celestial maiden would leave him and fly away. Back in reality, Kim Ji-eum immediately hugged OK Nam, surprising her. He said he was afraid that the celestial maiden would fly away. The store owner saw the two hugging and had no idea what was going on. That night, OK Nam embroidered many flowers on a tie as a gift for Kim Ji-eum. She also bought her daughter many clothes, but they were all old-fashioned, which Jeom Soon couldn't stand. How could someone have such terrible taste? OK Nam, on the other hand, was in a good mood after having a day out with Kim Ji-eum. Meanwhile, Yi Hyun bought a lot of alcohol to drink with his brother so they could talk more easily. Kim Ji-eum enthusiastically told Yi Hyun about his day out with OK Nam, but Yi Hyun's mind was also preoccupied with OK Nam, and he had feelings for her. So, he advised Kim Ji-eum not to get too close to her, because fairy tales weren't real. Yi Hyun remembered 3 years ago, when Kim Ji-eum was assigned to the research lab. It was the first time he had met Professor Yi Hyun. Time flew by, and they had been living together in this house for 3 years. When both of them were drunk, they began to talk about the erotic novel, The Secret Window of the Young Master. After reading it, both of them were incredibly excited by the story's plot. Because it was hot, they went to the park for exercise and a breath of fresh air. After a while, they put their arms around each other and went to OK Nam's house to play. When they met OK Nam, Kim Ji-eum gave her his phone number so they could easily contact each other. It was still early, so OK Nam invited the two young men to have coffee at her house so they could sleep better. It was so surreal. OK Nam gave Yi Hyun a gift. It happened to be his birthday, which reminded him of a painful and haunting memory from his childhood. He had refused OK Nam's gift. He also suspected that she had been entering his dreams every night and disrupting his life. After saying this, Yi Hyan went outside. Kim Ji-eum tried to follow him to find out what was going on. Looking at Kim Ji-eum, Yi Hyan suddenly saw the image of the Northern Star Emperor. A memory of his past life came back to him when he was the Celestial Dancer, the Northern Star Emperor, who was banished by the Star Lord for violating the laws of nature. Kim Ji-eum tried to explain that OK Nam had no idea that it was Yi Hyan's birthday, and that she had only given him the gift as a thank you. He asked Yi Hyan to apologize to the Celestial Maiden for his rudeness. Then, Kim Ji-eum left. The scene changed to the next morning. It was raining heavily. OK Nam went to put up an advertisement when Yi Hyan came to offer her an umbrella. He also apologized for his rude behavior the day before. OK Nam didn't hold a grudge and gave him the gift she had prepared. She told Yi Hyan about her unfortunate husband and that she was waiting for his reincarnation. She had now met the reincarnation of her husband, but she didn't know if it was Yi Hyan. At that moment, Kim Ji-eum arrived and gave OK Nam her phone charger. He also gave her the umbrella and left sadly. That day, the two brothers wore the floral tie that OK Nam had given them. Both of them talked about the celestial beings and wondered if it was all true. They argued because they disagreed with each other and ran home in the rain. That night, they sat down and talked. Yi Hyan learned that he grew up in an orphanage run by a church. He was raised by the nuns. One day, he learned the truth that he was the biological son of the nun. It was also the day of his birthday, and he was abandoned by his mother. This had haunted him ever since. It was also the reason why he hated birthdays. The next morning, Kim Ji-eum woke up and found that the lotus flower that OK Nam had given him had bloomed. He had been waiting for this day to come, and he was very happy. Yi Hyan went looking for OK Nam and saw Jeom soon. He was horrified. What a creature! She even had cat whiskers. Yi Hyan was so scared his legs gave way. He sat down at the table and OK Nam introduced Yi Hyan as a professor. She kept reminding Jeom soon to greet him. Yi Hyan couldn't believe it when he heard that OK Nam's daughter had been reincarnated 5 times, and this time she had been reborn as a tiger. Jeom Soon, meanwhile, kept blaming her mother for almost giving her a scar. Even if she was reborn as a tiger, her face wouldn't be ugly and scarred. Yi Hyan went for a walk with OK Nam. He grumbled and complained, so she invited him out to eat. At the restaurant, OK Nam ordered 2 bowls of noodles that looked very delicious for Yi Hyan. Even breakfast had to be lavish like this. OK Nam remembered her past life with Yi Hyan. They had 2 adorable sons. The 2 of them ate happily. Kim Ji-eum ran to meet Professor Park, the balding professor. Without saying hello, he went straight up to him and wanted to borrow his phone. The professor refused, saying he didn't use his phone on weekends, but his phone betrayed him. Kim Ji-eum begged to borrow the phone so he could call OK Nam. Meanwhile, Yi Hyan borrowed OK Nam's phone. Just as Kim Ji-eum was calling, he ran to where the 2 were eating noodles, intending to intervene. On the large ship, Master Gu and Shin Sun found 2 peanuts with writing on them. Shin Sun was a magic god, but even he wanted to pop his eyeballs out to see the writing on the peanuts. He couldn't read the writing on the peanuts. Master Gu was disappointed in him. What kind of celestial being couldn't read magic spells? Shin Sun sulked and said that he was a servant, not a magic god. He looked so sulky. The 3 of OK Nam's group wanted to enter the secret room. They had to pass through a door with a laser beam. They all wanted to see if their ancestors were strong enough to let them in. Yi Hyan volunteered first and was the first to be eliminated. Kim Ji-eum made it halfway through the laser beams when he was hit. It was OK Nam's turn. Since she was a girl, her body was more flexible and easier to get through. No problem, no problem. She got in. Inside, they saw a chart of mental patients. If the 3 of them couldn't guess the correct code, they would have to stay in the room with the ghost of the patient. There was a paranormal element to this, not to be messed with. Suddenly, they heard a knock at the door. They were all startled. The knocking sound and the plea for help meant that they were making noise and had to keep quiet. OK Nam suddenly saw a potted plant and excitedly asked about the code for the plant. Finally, OK Nam opened the door. The next morning, they arrived at a room even scarier than the first. Yi Hyan saw a crucifix and remembered the scary face of the nun. In his head, he kept repeating, "I will never forgive those who abandoned me." Then, he fainted, struggling to breathe. Kim Ji-young wanted to call for help, but his phone had no signal. OK Nam hugged Yi Hyun sadly and said she would stay with him, never leaving his side. Seeing this, Kim Ji-young realized that his house had no door. Kim Ji-young took Yi Hyun home. OK Nam saw him off. After walking a distance, she realized she had left Kim Ji-young's hand behind. It wasn't that she was heartless towards Kim Ji-young. She was simply focused on Yi Hyun. On the divine ship, Oh was searching for her celestial robe. She rummaged through the thief's underwear drawers but couldn't find it. She was going to have to stay in the mortal world forever. She realized that she was in love with someone. Hearing that, both Gu and Shin Sun collapsed. "Oh, save me! Save me!" Oh couldn't believe it. Shin Sun and Gu thought she liked one of them. Even if she was old and her looks were below average, she wouldn't want to stay on the ship with them. She asked them to meet at the hour of the dog, the next day to see the writing on the magic peanut. If they didn't want to meet, they could just avoid the magic peanut. Kim Ji-young's mother brought food. Yi Hyun woke up. If you got food, you had to wake up and enjoy it. While in the bathroom, Yi Hyun gently stroked Kim Ji-young's hand. They looked like a couple. Could the director change the storyline and make them fall in love? Probably not. If handsome guys were always in love with each other, who would OK Nam be with? Just as she mentioned OK Nam, she appeared at the school and gave Yi Hyun a bottle of coffee to help him wake up and see her love for him more clearly. Kim Ji-young already knew about her true feelings, so there wasn't any coffee at all. He went to the rooftop, feeling sad and lonely. Yi Hyun happily drank the coffee and said he was having nightmares constantly. He dreamed that he was trapped and couldn't move. OK Nam said it was probably a dream from his past life. If Yi Hyun wanted to talk about his strange dreams, he could go to OK Nam. After all, she had lived for 700 years on this earth, so she knew all about his past lives. At Ham Suk's clinic, Kim Ji-young's mother knew she couldn't cure her knee pain there. She had come here to say that she accepted Ham Suk as Yi Hyun's wife. Although she had slanted eyes like Yi Hyun, she was a good person, so his mother was willing to accept her as her daughter-in-law. She invited Ham Suk to her house. That night, she would go somewhere else so the two could talk privately. Ham Suk's head exploded with fireworks. This was a diamond opportunity, and if she didn't seize it, she would be foolish. Maybe, after this fateful night, she would become Yi Hyun's wife. On the ship, Oh met Gu and Shin Sun at the hour of the dog. She reached into Shin Sun's bag and took out the magic peanut, throwing it into the sea with Gu and Shin Sun, who disappeared. In the evening, Kim Ji-young sat in the park, feeling hopeless. His home was now the dating spot for Ham Suk and Yi Hyun. He went home and met OK Nam, who was there to have dinner with Yi Hyun. Kim Ji-young stopped her and asked her if Yi Hyun was the person she had been waiting for. OK Nam saw a swaying leaf and received a text message. Yi Hyun was about to be seduced by Ham Suk. She had to hurry. Ham Suk was at home, wearing a revealing dress, barely covering anything. Yi Hyun sent her away, just as OK Nam arrived. Yi Hyun gave her a big smile. At dinner, the four of them sat together at the table, enjoying the gourmet dishes Ham Suk had prepared. This dish wasn't salty enough, the next was too spicy. The next was bland, and the other was terrible. Yi Hyun suggested getting some wine. OK Nam and Ham Suk got drunk and argued about how OK Nam was a 7-year-old fairy, but she couldn't recognize who her husband was. Ham Suk criticized OK Nam for forgetting the man she loved so easily. Yi Hyun saw OK Nam crying and stopped Ham Suk from saying anything more. OK Nam just thought she was being punished. The only pain she felt now was that she couldn't remember her husband's face. The conversation ended, and the two men left to buy more wine. Only Ham Suk and OK Nam were left. Ham Suk declared that she was madly in love with Yi Hyun, and that she was going to confess her feelings today. But she failed. Next time, Ham Suk would wear something more revealing, with deeper cleavage to confess to Yi Hyun. She would use 3 seduction tactics: dependence, touch, and rubbing to make Yi Hyun fall for her. OK Nam wasn't going to let her get away with it. She gave the ideal description of the kind of woman Yi Hyun would like: long hair. If she wanted to wear revealing clothes, why not just get naked? When they first met, OK Nam didn't have a stitch of clothing on, and Yi Hyun couldn't control himself. Just as she was talking, Ham Suk interrupted. signaling for OK Nam to be quiet. OK Nam went back home and couldn't sleep, remembering Kim Ji-yeon's actions. She imagined her husband coming home with another woman, none other than Ham Suk. The two of them kept vying for Yi Hyun, making him frustrated. He turned to OK Nam and said, "I'm sorry, I love someone else. I wish you happiness on your journey without me." OK Nam woke up. It was just a dream. She had breakfast with her daughter, Shin Sun, Oh, and Gu suddenly drifted to Lai One University. Oh happily slapped Gu's butt and woke him up. She grabbed Shin Sun's hand and shouted that they had succeeded. The students thought they were aliens from outer space whose flying saucer had crash-landed. Ham Suk decided not to buy OK Nam's coffee and would make it herself. She thought it was easy to make coffee. OK Nam sat in her small shop, her mind preoccupied with the time when Yi Hyun left her. She couldn't focus. Yi Hyun went to class to teach, wearing a floral tie, and he looked even more handsome. The celestial being, Yi Jai, was wandering near him, whispering words of revenge in his ear, so he couldn't continue teaching. The three celestial beings wandered the Lai One campus like a gang. Oh was thinking about eating a bowl of plain white rice. Gu was imagining delicious food on the table, chewy meat and fish. Shin Sun wasn't far behind, imagining himself eating delicious food. Even celestial beings needed to eat to have strength. OK Nam tried to call Yi Hyun, but accidentally dialed Ham Suk instead. Ham Suk answered the phone, and OK Nam couldn't sit still. She ran to find Yi Hyun. Bong Di saw OK Nam running away from work again and was frustrated. She had taken his money and now wanted to relax. OK Nam ran to Yi Hyun's door, cried and screamed, "Let me go, don't kidnap him." A student opened the door in a panic and saw OK Nam. He thought she liked Kim Ji-yeon. "Wow, this love triangle is big news. I have to tell the head of the department." Yi Hyun sat next to Ham Suk and told her about what had happened in class. Ham Suk took the opportunity to hug him, but the trees around them were enraged and dropped fruit on her head. The leaves slapped Ham Suk in the face. The two couldn't understand what they had done wrong to Mother Nature. They had to get out of there. Yi Hyun took Ham Suk out to eat, even though it was already mealtime. Ham Suk looked at Yi Hyun's hand, remembering the time they held hands when they went to the spa, and she couldn't help but smile. Every now and then, Ham Suk would scoot closer to Yi Hyun. He felt something strange. "It's smelly, like shit." It turned out that Ham Suk had stepped in dog poop. Yi Hyun covered his nose and asked Ham Suk to sit further away. Ham Suk was frustrated that her confession had gone so poorly. Jeom soon went to see Kyung-sul. He showed her the video he had recorded of himself with the three fairies. Jeom soon recognized them and hurried to the student's apartment. Kyung-sul opened the door and chased after her, but couldn't find Jeom soon. All he saw was a cute yellow cat running around. The three fairies were so hungry they were about to faint. Shin Sun was afraid he would starve to death if he stayed there. Just then, Jeom soon arrived and called out to her three favorite fairies. Back at OK Nam's house, the three of them ate like they hadn't eaten in 5 years. After they were done, Bong Di told them they had to go outside so she could perform a spell. They could stay in the house. Of course, their place was in the storage room. OK Nam felt sorry for them and let them sleep in the same room with her. Kim Ji-yeon came to look for OK Nam and met the three fairies. He kindly asked them if they had a place to sleep. If not, they could sleep at his house. OK Nam shyly refused, but the three fairies didn't hesitate. They were happy to have a comfortable place to sleep. On his way home from work, Yi Hyun missed OK Nam terribly. He took out his phone to call her, but a deer appeared. How could there be a deer in the middle of the city? Yi Hyun was terrified and remembered Yi Jai's words about revenge and retribution. He ran away in fear. OK Nam was walking with Kim Ji-yeon. He was about to take her hand when Yi Hyun called out to OK Nam from a distance. Yi Hyun ran up to OK Nam and scolded her for not answering his call. Was she using her phone just to check the time? Gu saw this and asked why he dared to yell at OK Nam. Yi Hyun said he wasn't yelling. Gu said the worst thing a man can do is to yell at his wife and abuse her. OK Nam said they shouldn't fight, it was all her fault. Anyway, if they kept fighting like this, she would figure out a way for them to sleep at her place. She wouldn't go to Yi Hyun's anymore. Yi Hyun wanted to appease OK Nam, so he reluctantly agreed to let the three of them sleep at his place. After all, they were her family, so it was no big deal. OK Nam thanked him and went home. Yi Hyun took OK Nam back home. He learned that her past life husband was a woodcutter who had slipped and died by the cliff. It had snowed at the time. Yi Hyun remembered the strange dreams he had been having. He told OK Nam about the visions he had been having lately. OK Nam was overjoyed and started to cry. Her husband was gradually remembering everything. When Yi Hyun got home, he saw the three of them sleeping on the floor. He wondered why they didn't sleep in his bed. The three of them opened their eyes and looked around. They had just been talking bad about Yi Hyun, but then he offered them his bed. His conscience was bothering him. The next morning, a scene of Kim Ji-eun's mother and Shin Sun waiting for the bathroom unfolded. The two of them kept arguing. At mealtime, Kim Ji-eun's mother gave all the good food to Gu. Shin Sun was even jealous if she put a piece of vegetable in her mouth. Yi Hyun said he had a class in a little while, and then he would go to OK Nam's house. He and OK Nam were going on a trip. Kim Ji-eun was jealous and his eyes were shooting sparks. Why didn't he go home? Why did he have to go to OK Nam's house? He was even taking her on a trip. This was unfair. Kim Ji-eun finished his experiment as quickly as possible, so he could take the day off and go to OK Nam's house. OK Nam was teaching her daughter, Jeom Soon, how to make coffee. Her daughter kept asking if she was coming home that night. OK Nam scolded Jeom Soon. Even if she wasn't coming home, she had to come home early like usual. OK Nam didn't want to find Yi Hyun's memories and then worry about her daughter as well. Jeom Soon obediently promised to be good. Yi Hyun finished work early and rushed to pick up OK Nam. Gu grumbled to himself. He didn't know what they were planning, but if they touched one hair on OK Nam's head, he would make Yi Hyun pay the price. OK Nam told Oh to take care of Jeom Soon for her. Yi Hyun pulled OK Nam into the car and sped away because Kim Ji-eun was chasing after them. Yi Hyun was trying to lose Kim Ji-eun, but he took a different route and blocked Yi Hyun's car. It seemed like their trip wasn't going to happen. Oh was watching over OK Nam's little coffee shop when Ham Suk arrived. She gave Oh money and asked where OK Nam and Yi Hyun went. She wanted to join them. Yi Hyun was driving OK Nam and Kim Ji-eun to the cliff to recover his memories, but they got lost. He saw flowers by the side of the road and remembered something, but it wasn't clear. OK Nam picked a flower and put it behind Kim Ji-eun's ear, just like Shino had done, but Kim Ji-eun liked it. OK Nam found a different path to get to the place where OK Nam's husband had fallen. Back at OK Nam's little coffee shop, the three were worried because it was getting late and Jeom Soon hadn't come home yet. They decided to split up and search for her. OK Nam's daughter was having fun with the young director, yelling and shouting. In the afternoon, Yi Hyun saw a familiar path ahead and went there alone. A deer followed him and introduced itself as his brother, making Yi Hyun panic. He fell off the cliff, fainted and said, "I can't die, I can't die." But the cliff Yi Hyun fell off was only a meter high, so how could he possibly die? OK Nam and Kim Ji-eun called out to him. Kim Ji-eun carried him back because he probably sprained his ankle. OK Nam took 2 dry branches and her belt to secure his foot. Kim Ji-eun's mother had laid out a spread of food, just waiting for Gu to come back. Ham Suk went to Yi Hyun's house and met the 3 fairies who had just returned. OK Nam didn't want to leave Yi Hyun alone. She told Kim Ji-eun to go alone and she would stay to take care of Yi Hyun. On his way out to get the car, Kim Ji-eun met the strange deer. He asked it if it knew him, but it turned and ran away. Ham Suk was angry that her love was going out with another woman. She got drunk with Kim Ji-eun's mother and the 3 fairies. They were having a good time when Ham Suk started crying like a crazy ghost. It was getting dark. OK Nam was worried because Kim Ji-eun had been gone for a long time. She wanted to look for him, but Yi Hyun held her. OK Nam remembered what had happened to Yi Hyun earlier. He just said, "If only I had kept your celestial robe. I don't know what to do without you, OK Nam?" Then, he hugged OK Nam tighter and kissed her. The full moon shone on them. Kim Ji-eun was getting his things when he witnessed the romantic scene between the two of them. He stopped for a long time. Kim Ji-eun left. OK Nam wanted to follow him, but Yi Hyun called her back. He begged her not to leave him alone. The mountain path was uneven, and Kim Ji-eun fell a few times. He heard OK Nam calling his name, and remembered hundreds of years ago when OK Nam, beautiful and radiant, had brought him a bouquet of flowers. OK Nam tried to wake Kim Ji-eum up, and finally all three of them made it back to the city. OK Nam thanked Kim Ji-eum and went home. Kim Ji-eum and Yi Hyun were driving when OK Nam ran out to stop them. She wanted to look for Jeom-soon. She had searched at Yi Hyun's house, but her daughter wasn't there. It was 11 p.m. and Jeom-soon still hadn't come home. Kim Ji-eum wanted to take OK Nam, and Yi Hyun wanted to too, but he was in pain, so he watched them go together. Kim Ji-eum said Jeom-soon had mentioned a craft beer bar a few times. They tried going there. Kim Ji-eum went inside and told OK Nam not to get out of the car. He would go find Jeom-soon. In the car, OK Nam saw a drunk girl who was kind and honest. She wanted to go up and ask her a question, but she ran into a drunk uncle who tried to grab her. Thankfully, Kim Ji-eum came out in time to pull her into the car. OK Nam was worried about her daughter. Where was she? Who was she with? Why hadn't she come home? It turned out that Jeom-soon was enjoying the fresh air with Kyung-sul. They were kissing passionately. Jeom-soon's cattail stuck out. She didn't know that Kyung's son had installed a camera on his car. OK Nam couldn't find her daughter, so she went back home with Kim Ji-eum. She apologized to him for making him feel sad for the whole day. Just then, Jeom-soon came home. OK Nam hadn't even started to scold her daughter when Kim Ji-eum did it instead. He scolded her in a way that seemed like he was prompting Jeom-soon to apologize to her mother. OK Nam told Kim Ji-eum to go home. She would walk back with Jeom-soon. She was very grateful to him for that day. OK Nam walked back with Jeom-soon and asked her where she had been. Jeom-soon honestly told her mother that she went to the Hangang Park and looked at the river. She also said that her boyfriend's name was Kyung-sul. In Jeom-soon's eyes, her boyfriend was very nice. She would definitely introduce him to her mother when they were closer. They were already kissing. How could they get any closer? What did Jeom-soon want to be closer about? The two of them walked back home. Jeom-soon kept talking, making the quiet, deserted road noisy. The next morning, Ham-suk was sleeping with her mouth open at Yi Hyun's house. She ran to get a water bottle and poured it straight into her mouth, much to the astonishment of the three fairies. Kim Ji-eum's mother was still cooking delicious food. Ham-suk asked her if Yi Hyun had come back last night. She said he had, but he looked very tired. His clothes were dirty and still hadn't been washed. Ham-suk didn't understand where Yi Hyun had gone. At the university, Yi Hyun was still haunted by the deer from yesterday. Why did it tell him to pay for his crimes? He was so confused. Ham-suk went to see Yi Hyun. This time she didn't dare sit in the middle of the cool forest. They saw Kim Ji-eum's mother bringing food for her son. It was nice to have a mother around. Kim Ji-eum's mother was perfect, except that she talked too much. Yi Hyun turned to Ham-suk and asked if he was being too selfish. He had to be selfish to achieve things in his life. Ham-suk pointed at the lunchbox and herself. Did he think anyone could be friends with someone as intelligent and beautiful as Ham-suk? Yi Hyun was speechless. Ham-suk was about to touch Yi Hyun when a bald head popped up and the two of them jumped in surprise. Professor Park asked who the old lady was standing with Kim Ji-eum. Of course, she was his mother. Professor Park remembered his deep-seated hatred for Kim Ji-eum's mother and smiled maliciously, as if he had already planned everything out in his head. Gu went looking for OK Nam. She made him a cup of coffee. Gu asked about her husband's memories. OK Nam sadly said that he still hadn't remembered much. Recovering past memories was so fragile and unstable. Gu asked again if she was sure Yi Hyun was her husband. She felt guilty in front of him. She couldn't let him feel alone and lost. Gu had been single for many lifetimes. How could he understand the complexities of romantic relationships? Why did he have to ask so many questions? At Professor Park's lab, he was like a lion entering the room. He shouted at Kim Ji-eum to open the lunchbox his mother had brought him. Professor Park saw the delicious food and exclaimed, "Oh my God, this looks so good." He couldn't hold back and asked the student to give him a plate. He ate it roughly, but hey, he had a plate of delicious food. He wanted to get Kim Ji-eum's mother's phone number because she owed him a debt. Kim Ji-eum wrote his mother's number for him. Having gotten what he wanted, Professor Park shoved 2 eel skewers into his mouth and left. Yi Hyun opened his lunchbox, full of delicious dishes. He wanted to share it with OK Nam. Even though his foot hurt, he still came to her house. He hadn't seen OK Nam yet, but he ran into Oh and Shin Sun. He decided to leave, but then he heard OK Nam's voice. Yi Hyun turned around happily. They sat together and had lunch. OK Nam gently rolled food for him to eat. He was very happy. He wished he could eat with OK Nam like this every day. Kim Ji-eum missed OK Nam and couldn't bear it any longer. He had to go to her place. He saw OK Nam from afar and remembered when she put a flower behind his ear. Kim Ji-eum knew he shouldn't be searching for OK Nam like this. He probably loved her. Gu was walking along when he met Kim Ji-eum's mother. She was wearing headphones, so she didn't hear him calling her. He ran up to her and pulled her back. She showed him her headphones. Kim Ji-eum's mother looked at Gu with such passion that he was startled. Professor Park called, and Gu accidentally pressed the button to answer the phone. He was furious when he heard them talking. They clearly said her husband died, but now she has a boyfriend. Jeom-soon was calling her two-faced boyfriend. He hadn't touched her since they kissed. She didn't know that he was obsessed with the video of them kissing. Bong-di saw Jeom-soon kissing him in the video and decided to expose him. Jeom-soon's eyes were wet as she went to find Kim Ji-eum. She told him about her heartbreak. The fake director had dumped her. Kim Ji-eum gave Jeom-soon a super-sized sausage. She ate it and said that she had been reincarnated 5 times. Kyung-sul had stolen her first kiss and then disappeared. Jeom-soon was so angry, her cat whiskers stuck out. Kim Ji-eum told her to put them away, or people would take her to the zoo. Kim Ji-eum wasn't doing much better. He was also heartbroken because the girl he loved had fallen for someone else. Even if he was reincarnated dozens of times, he would only ever love her. He couldn't give up on OK Nam. He had to go and tell Yi Hyun not to fight with him for her. He turned back and told Jeom-soon not to be sad about what happened. Jeom-soon screamed, and Kim Ji-eum dived for the tree. He knew it was going to be like this. Yi Hyun was leaving work and wanted to invite OK Nam to dinner. They had lunch together, so why not dinner too? As he stepped outside, he saw Kim Ji-eum running. He guessed that he was looking for OK Nam. The two of them raced towards the same place. Kim Ji-eum wanted to talk to OK Nam about his feelings. OK Nam asked to speak first. Because of her selfishness, she had disrupted his life. OK Nam had been attracted to Kim Ji-eum's kindness and had opened her heart to him, but love couldn't be forced. She hoped he wouldn't dwell on her and would focus on his own happy life. Kim Ji-eum's eyes were red and puffy. Yi Hyun took him to dinner. The two of them drank soju. Kim Ji-eum felt guilty because he was just a destroyer of their fated love. Yi Hyun wasn't sure if he was OK Nam's husband. He believed in what he was certain of. Every night, he dreamed he was trapped and abandoned. The devil appeared in his dream. He was afraid, but he couldn't find the answer. Suddenly, a voice appeared beside him. If it's not you, then OK Nam will find the one who is truly her destiny. Yi Hyun panicked in fear. Was it a fairy or a ghost? Why did it keep appearing around him? Kim Ji-eum cried and ran out of the restaurant. At the intersection, he said that there was a girl there. He knew she was on the mountain. Yi Hyun was scared and wanted to get his car, but Kim Ji-eum said the girl was the deer and wanted to chase after it. Yi Hyun stopped Kim Ji-eum. He remembered something and collapsed. Yi Hyun was exhausted and carried Kim Ji-eum home. OK Nam couldn't sleep all night. Her daughter, Jeom-soon, woke up and saw that her mother's eyes were as dark as a panda's. Meanwhile, Kim Ji-eum was also tired. His mother brought him food in bed. He told her about Professor Park asking for her phone number. She didn't think much of it and told him to go to sleep. Yi Hyun also went to work at the university. He kept thinking about what Kim Ji-eum had said yesterday, about seeing the girl who was actually the deer. He was racking his brains when Professor Park came over and asked about Kim Ji-eum's mother. He hadn't gotten any information when Kim Ji-eum's mother called. He saved the number, which was totally fake. Yi Hyun went to OK Nam's place. He heard the same voice in his head. Why did he keep hearing that voice? Shin Sun and Oh arrived and saw that his forehead was very hot. Shin Sun told him to take a day off. Don't spread germs. Yi Hyun refused. He understood they were going to OK Nam's place. Looking at OK Nam's face, he knew she had stayed up all night. Yi Hyun talked to OK Nam. He held her hand and asked her not to think about Kim Ji-eum. He would be heartbroken to see it. Seeing that OK Nam was silent, Yi Hyun had to stand up and leave. Before he left, He invited OK Nam to eat. Jeom soon went to school looking for Kim Jium and saw the fake director there. He was hiding from Jeom soon like he was hiding from a demon. He could avoid cats, but he couldn't avoid tigers. Bong Di was also following him. When he got to class, he still saw her and was terrified. She looked like a ghost. He couldn't escape her, no matter where he went. OK Nam sat in her small coffee shop, thinking about Yi Hyan's words. She asked her phone if she was being too much by thinking about someone else, and not her husband. An advertisement popped up with a headline, "Golden Opportunity." OK Nam wasn't sure when this golden opportunity would come. To make it come faster, she only needed to send a message with a specific format to a certain number. Asking like OK Nam did, with the weather switching from sunny to rainy, she wouldn't catch that golden opportunity. Ham Suk invited Yi Hyan to the gym, but she was eating rice balls. How could she lose weight like that? She asked him if he ever reflected on himself. Yi Hyan remembered when he was a child, how he was always scolded and punished by the nun in a dark room. She always used harsh words to a 5-year-old. Remembering it just made Yi Hyan sad. Ham Suk was about to put a rice ball in her mouth when Yi Hyan blurted out about his past life and then stopped abruptly. He left, leaving Ham Suk alone. She thought he was crazy or had eaten something wrong. On the way home, it started raining heavily. Today, Yi Hyan clearly saw Yi Ju. She engraved each word into his mind about revenge. Yi Ju said no one loved Yi Hyan. His stupidity would lead him to his death, and only revenge would make him survive. Then she went through him. He arrived at OK Nam's place and leaned his head on her shoulder. Yi Hyan sadly asked OK Nam if she would leave him in the end. He always dreamed he was locked up and abandoned. And Yi Ju, after being burned to death, was reincarnated as a deer. Yi Hyan once thought he was atoning for his sins by being with OK Nam. But when he became closer to her, the deer appeared and told him to pay for his sins. A girl appeared and told him he had to take revenge. It all drove him crazy. At home, Kim Jium was sleeping and dreamed again of hundreds of years ago. He was cutting wood when the deer came to him. He demanded that she return his wife's celestial robe. The deer said if he gave it back to OK Nam, she would fly away with their children. Would he be able to live alone? Kim Jium was tormented in his dream. Meanwhile, OK Nam was urging Yi Hyan to return. Why did he have to suffer this pain? OK Nam painfully said, "Even if you say the harshest things, I will still believe you." Yi Hyan turned and touched OK Nam's cheek, and she ran up to kiss him. It was at this moment that Kim Jium woke up. Yi Hyan didn't remember and didn't want to remember. He was heartbroken not knowing who he was. He left, leaving OK Nam behind. Kim Jium, holding an umbrella, went to find Yi Hyan. He remembered Kim Gum, the one from his dream. Yi Hyan grabbed his shirt and asked who Kim Jium was, the person who appeared in his dream. When he woke up, Yi Hyan also fainted. This time, Kim Jium carried him on his back. So, it's even now. After Yi Hyan took a bath, Kim Jium brought a pillow over. Tonight, he wanted to sleep with Yi Hyan. Yi Hyan noticed the bruise on Kim Jium's cheek and asked, "Who punched you? Tell me so I can break his jaw." Kim Jium thought Yi Hyan was pretending to be crazy and bluntly said, "You punched me." Yi Hyan was speechless. He couldn't believe that he, a refined professor, would punch someone. He asked, "Why didn't you punch me back then?" This guy always endured and let others bully him. Seeing the strength of his own punch, Yi Hyan felt a pang of regret. But whatever, let's go to bed now. We'll figure things out tomorrow. Jeon soon went to Kim Jium's house. He gave her a bottle of Coca-Cola, which looked like the pesticide they used back in his hometown. Jeon soon invited Kim Jium out for grilled sausages sometime. She loved all those kinds of dirty skewers. Kim Jium agreed, and she went home, saying, "Let's meet up and eat dirty skewers someday." Kim Jium opened the door and watched Jeon Soon's shadow disappear. He remembered he used to hold a chubby, adorable baby in his arms. Whether he was the father of the little girl and the husband of OK Nam remained an unknown. The next morning, Kim Jium went to find OK Nam, but Bong Di said she had already returned to the mountain farm. She wasn't going to heaven, so there was no need for Kim Jium to cry. Bong Di gave Kim Jium a letter written by OK Nam. She had made a decision about an unexpected journey. OK Nam decided to leave because she didn't want to disrupt anyone's life anymore. Kim Jium recalled the first time he met OK Nam. From an old lady, she transformed into a beautiful girl in his eyes. Kim Ji-eum's eyes were red and filled with tears. By then, OK Nam was already in the car, heading back to her house on the mountain. OK Nam and her daughter were left alone again. Yi-hein went to school and heard that OK Nam's shop was closed. He rushed over to find her. The shop was still there, but she was gone. The three gods also came and missed OK Nam. At Yi-hein's house, Kim Ji-eum's mother was cooking when the god Gu arrived. She liked him and always took good care of him. The god Gu had been lonely for hundreds of years, so he couldn't keep up with the trends. He ran away from Kim Ji-eum's mother's concern. Ji-eun soon returned home, filled with regret for Seo-eun. She missed her lover, Kai Eung-sun. He was currently searching for her. Kai Eung-sun was scared out of her wits when she saw Bong Di at home. Bong Di just wanted to get justice for Ji-eun soon. That jerk Kai Eung-sun threatened to report Bong Di and then ran off. Yi-hein invited Ham Suk to drink. He was all, "What did I do wrong that OK Nam just left?" Ham Suk was practically beside herself with joy. She was secretly laughing inside, thinking this was just her and Yi-hein now. She didn't care what Yi-hein was babbling about. She grabbed a dried squid and smacked him on the head to wake him up. She almost hit him again but stopped, scared that he might get hurt and she'd regret it. Ham Suk said, "From now on, deal with your own problems. Don't come to me anymore." Yi-hein went home drunk, blaming Ham Suk for not understanding OK Nam. He said she was the one who remembered him, found him, and was waiting for him. OK Nam was the one who helped him escape the 30-year nightmare. He was wasted and just fell asleep on the chair. Even if he yelled, nobody would hear. Nobody knew about OK Nam's feelings for Yi-hein. Shin Sun and the god O were packing their things. The god O noticed Shin Sun secretly eating something and went to check. It turned out he was eating Kim Ji-eum's bug jelly. Hunger knows no pride, she thought. Now even bug jelly was fair game. The god Gu returned home looking like he got caught in the rain. Kim Ji-eum's mom and the god Gu looked at each other awkwardly. The god O and Shin Sun also understood that the two were developing feelings for each other. Kim Ji-eum, on the other side, was missing OK Nam and her daughter like crazy. He looked at the picture of OK Nam and Ji-eun soon with red eyes. Kim Ji-eum helped a friend put away a toolbox, but it fell on his head. He remembered that he used to have a child and a wife who was waiting for him before he died. Kim Ji-eum's fragrant pouch was still there. If he could find it, it would prove that he was OK Nam's husband. He needed to go to the mountain farm to find OK Nam. Yi-hein was looking for Kim Ji-eum but couldn't find him. He went to Ham Suk and asked to borrow her car, but she didn't own one. Yi-hein ended up borrowing a student's car to find his lover. Ham Suk called and asked if he was really going to find OK Nam. Yi-hein said, "What else? If I don't go, Kim Ji-eum will." Kim Ji-eum lifted several rocks and piled them up, creating a stairway leading to the mountain. He excitedly ran up. The scenery was beautiful. He bumped into OK Nam who was bathing in a stream. It was amazing. A towel fell on his head, a cosmic sign that he should also go bathe in the stream. It felt so refreshing. Before he could wrap himself in a towel, he saw OK Nam. She rushed over and hugged him. Kim Ji-eum was smashing rocks in the forest when he stumbled upon a stream. He figured, why not, and took a quick dip to cool off. As he walked back up, he bumped into OK Nam, and they ran towards each other, embracing in a super romantic moment. Meanwhile, Ji-eum soon was chilling in the house, munching on dried persimmons, when the other two walked in. She paused for a moment before running out to see if she knew them. Kim Ji-eum surprised Ji-eum soon with a brand new laptop, the latest model. She couldn't contain her excitement and ran inside to unbox it, completely ignoring the other two. OK Nam went to make tea for Kim Ji-eum and gave him a tour of her house. Kim Ji-eum seemed a bit flustered, maybe because of the pretty girl, and had this awkward look on his face. They looked at each other and smiled like they were already smitten. Yi-hein was still searching for his lost loved one, but his phone was out of service. He recognized the rocks he'd seen when he first met OK Nam. He was looking for her with someone else, but Kim Ji-eum was busy with OK Nam now. At Yongsan Station, Gu the teacher and the Mountain God Park were scoping things out. 5 hours ago, they were having coffee with the fairy lady. Their conversation centered around who liked what kind of coffee better. The guy with the long hair was the biggest chatterbox in the group, rambling on and on, annoying the other two. Yihayan was still searching for his family when he ran into a deer, but it could talk. This freaked Dikayan out. Meanwhile, the long-haired guy met his dream girl. The nameless girl showed off her new haircut. He gently touched her hand to his heart, and it started pounding. Ham-suk called Dikayan at work, but it went straight to voicemail. He was busy having a panic attack with a talking deer in the forest. Back at OK Nam's house, Jeom soon said the wolf would stop eating meat and become human for Kim Jeom. He picked up a piece of meat and started eating. Jeom soon looked like she was craving it but couldn't do anything about it. Yihayan wasn't so lucky. He ran into 3 demons who looked super scary. They threatened to make him reincarnate as an animal, and Yihayan freaked out and ran to his car. He crashed it. Ham-suk called Kim Jeom to tell him she couldn't get in touch with Dikayan. The baby, Jeom-don, just hatched from his egg and started calling OK Nam mom. She asked him when he hatched, and he said just now, when Kim Jeom touched him. He even said his dad was just here, leaving OK Nam speechless. She remembered the past and then just smiled. Kim Jeom was running and calling Dikayan, but he didn't get an answer. Dikayan was dying after a car accident. When Kim Jeom arrived, he saw the rescue team, but they said they only found the overturned car and the driver was missing. A drunk old man told Kim Jeom he saw someone running into the forest. Sure enough, Yihayan had run into the forest, but he collapsed from exhaustion. Kyung-sul was sitting on the roof of a mobile home when a red-haired girl appeared behind him. He ran to his car, but she got in and locked the door. The 3, Gu the teacher and the others, went back to OK Nam and told her about the accident. They described it in detail. OK Nam knew what happened and ran off in a hurry. She got to the accident site, but it was already cordoned off for investigation. Kim Jeom followed the deer he'd seen earlier to the stream, where he saw a young woman's figure. She looked like someone he knew but disappeared in a flash. It was the fairy Mai. Kim Jeom sat there, looking troubled, like he was deeply worried about something. Bong Di went to OK Nam's house and took the eggshell of her son. Kyung-sul was following behind. He fainted when he saw OK Nam's son. Kim Jeom met up with Dikayan. He showed off his Chinese magic skills to Kim Jeom. Dikayan called him a clueless idiot. Then, OK Nam came running over and tried to stop Dikayan. He just went up to her and gently touched her cheek. Back in the past, when OK Nam and Mai Ra were still fairies in the celestial realm, OK Nam brought a basket of flowers and gifted Mai Ra a blooming blossom. But Mai Ra said she didn't understand suffering, only saw the bright side and had no grasp of a dark past. So she gave the flower back to OK Nam and went inside. Meanwhile, the fire in the forest was raging out of control. OK Nam urged Yihayan to stop, but he said she had never loved him even once. Just then, the string on his instrument snapped. OK Nam's son, riding a tiger, came to rescue his mother but was dodged by Yihayan. The group with the teacher arrived. The teacher told Yihayan to put out the fire, as it was the path connecting the human world and the celestial realm. Yihayan refused to listen because the teacher wasn't his mentor. He didn't care. Mai Ra, in Yihayan's body, said that Gu the teacher was the one who chased her. When Mai Ra was banished from the celestial realm, she was transformed into a deer. She couldn't stop because humans were pursuing her. She met a kind man who tried to hide her from Gu the professor. They were friends, but the young man betrayed Mai Ra, so she forced him to get a white cloth from a young woman bathing in the stream. Then, Mai Ra took a gamble and set the whole forest on fire. Kim Jeom was trapped inside. Seeing this, OK Nam rushed in and embraced him. She reminisced about the past, saying Kim Jeom had given her warm and happy memories. Then, she gave him a flower to put in his hair. He called her wife. They embraced in the midst of the fire, vowing their love would never burn, even if the sky fell and the forest burned. As a branch above Mai Ra was about to fall, she remembered when Kim Jeom tripped and fell off a cliff, never to return. She sobbed at the sight. Though she hated Kim Jeom, she didn't want to hurt him. Kim Jeom tried to stop Mai Ra, but it was no use. She, in Yihayan's body, told him to help everything here disappear. Seeing this, Gu the teacher drew his bow and shot at Yihayan, but the arrow fell short of its mark. What a bummer. Gu the teacher ran back to the others and bumped into Bong Di. she went to OK Nam's son and said he was the most beautiful boy in the world. The boy transformed into a ball of light and flew into the sky, becoming a dragon, astonishing everyone. The dragon soared through the sky when suddenly a strange light flew towards Bong Di. This caused everyone to be transported back to the cafe. Yi Hyan couldn't understand what was happening, everything was chaotic. He went outside and said everything was exactly like last week. Confused, he thought it was a dream. He ran into Bong Di, and she said they were in the universe of this egg. Then, she went to the place she needed to be. She had piled up rocks to mark the path leading to the celestial realm. She shouted a slogan, startling Gu the teacher who was hunting in the forest. When they reached the place where Di Qian's past was formed, Bong Di told him the whole story. She showed Yi Hyan a horrifying image of the girl rushing to a young boy locked in a small, dirty house. When he saw this, Yi Hyan realized what he'd done and hugged the girl, filled with regret. Finally, after 49 memories, Bong Di reunited with her brother. When he saw Yi Hyan, he said he had changed the entire world. Back at the cafe, Yi Hyan and Kim Ji-eum were enjoying coffee. Yi Hyan saw a butterfly flying and chased after it. He met his master, who said he had done well. Bong Di rushed over and said she had to go back 100 years. 100 years ago, Bong Di brought the egg to OK Nam's house and left it there as a gift. In the present, it began to rain, and the fire was put out. Things returned to normal. The leader of the fairies came to Kim Ji-eum and said she regretted banishing him from the celestial realm. Yi Hyan also returned to normal. They embraced, expressing their love. The three, Gu the teacher and his companions, also hugged each other tightly. The Bong Di siblings were talking when Kim Ji-eum came over and asked how to get OK Nam's celestial wings back. Inside OK Nam's house, butterflies started flying into her clothes, indicating she could return to the celestial realm. They sat and talked, sharing a passionate kiss. Not long after that, the fairy and Jeondu flew back to the celestial realm. Scene change. To celebrate the finale of The Secret Window of the Little Tiger, Jeom-soon was holding a signing event. Kim Ji-eum was sitting there signing autographs for his fans. Ham-suk came by to get his autograph, because she was a big fan. But she ended up signing Jeom-soon's autograph book instead, because she was even more of a fan of Jeom-soon than Kim Ji-eum. Later, Kim Ji-eum went to a familiar coffee shop to get a drink. He asked Kim Ji-eum about OK Nam, wondering if she had come back. But Kim Ji-eum just said she would return for her 700th birthday. Meanwhile, Yi Hyan was analyzing a new virus strain on some remote island. He checked his phone and saw a message from Professor Lee, a picture of her with Jeom-soon the tiger. Yi Hyan's job was to herd cattle, but he was really scared of them. As he was walking down, he stumbled upon a pile of cow dung, which freaked him out. Back at the office, Kim Ji-eum had returned, leaving Kyung-sik and Young-min behind. He was eating ramen when Young-min asked Kyung-sik if he liked her. He got flustered and couldn't say anything. That night, Kim Ji-eum was waiting for Jeom-soon to arrive. He said that ever since OK Nam went back to the celestial realm, she stopped eating meat. But after a day or two, she went back to devouring 1 to 2 kilograms of pork. The two went to a sausage shop, and Jeom-soon asked the owner why the sausages were smaller this year. He was speechless. Kyung-sul saw Jeom-soon and said he couldn't speak for a while after witnessing the dragonfly. He went to see Professor Lee to tell her everything. He even mentioned that he had secretly filmed her. He asked the professor to cure his temporary muteness. That's what Kyung-sul wanted to tell Jeom-soon. He also asked her to forgive him for filming her secretly. Jeom-soon forgave Kyung-sul and gave him a sausage to eat. Kim Ji-eum was sitting when he saw a bright light in the sky. He ran out and saw it was OK Nam, returning with her son. Kim Ji-eum took OK Nam back to his house. She met her daughter, Jeom-soon. Then, Kim Ji-eum and OK Nam stood on the balcony, smiling and wishing each other good night. The next morning, Kim Ji-eum took OK Nam to Ka-di's coffee shop. He was so happy to see her again. Later, some students came in, but the barista was now an old woman. As OK Nam was serving coffee, Professor Lee arrived. She casually took out her phone and snapped a photo with OK Nam. Back on the island, Yi Hyan received a package, a coat that Professor Lee bought for him. At a fancy restaurant, Kim Ji-eum was waiting for OK Nam. When she arrived, she saw him wearing a stylish suit and asked where he got it. He was a little embarrassed. As they were sitting down to eat, he pulled out an engagement ring and proposed to OK Nam. She was deeply touched. Meanwhile, Gu the teacher and his companions were arguing. Kim Jium arrived at the house and gave OK Nam a bouquet of flowers as a thank you. That night, they went to watch the moon and bumped into Yi Hyan there. He gave Kim Jium a gift he brought back from Sion. At home, OK Nam's son was crying about something. She went out and told Kim Jium that a tiger had bitten off one of her son's fingers. The little boy cried, and Kim Jium cried with him. While eating, Yi Hyan talked about OK Nam and Kim Jium. He said, "You two are going to get married?" and raised his glass to drink a toast. The next day, as Yi Hyan was walking, he ran into his mother. After all these years, the mother and son were reunited. Back at Professor Lee's house, she was reading a book when someone knocked on the door. It was Yi Hyan. He went back to his place and cleaned up the mess. At Ka-Di's coffee shop, Gu the teacher and his companions arrived, along with Kim Jium and OK Nam. Before Professor Lee's flight took off, everyone took a group photo together. The past seemed brighter now, with everyone forgiving each other.